That's the Chief Executive. Next, cuts to Scarborough Council budget. The Conservative Liberal Democrats' decision to slash its revenue support to Scarborough Borough Council by 14.6% in the coming financial year is a cruel blow to the hopes and ambitions we have for the Scarborough district. These cuts are of course linked with the government's desire to slash public funding for regional economic development by 2/3 and its attack on the living standards of ordinary people, particularly the young and the elderly. Scarborough District Trades Council does not subscribe to that view, that front-loading these cuts in the way that the government is doing will help the British economy, and note that reducing demand in public sector is bound to damage the private sector too. Many of our members now face uncertain futures for themselves and their families. We believe it's the job of local elected representatives to stand up for local people and not to accept without question all that central government dictates. We therefore register our opposition to the scale and the pace of these cuts with you in the expectation that you will convey to government ministers deep opposition that the people you represent have for these cuts. We oppose further job losses in this council proposed at a time when the council is thinking about increasing its general reserve by 25%. The combination of these two factors alone show how ill thought out cuts agenda is nationally and locally. We ask that you demand a meeting with government ministers to make the case for Scarborough's regeneration, which could be stalled by the combination of cuts and a lack of direction in development policy. We ask that you publish all representations between Scarborough Borough Council and government ministers so that local people can judge for themselves the arguments that have been made on behalf or indeed against their best interests. Finally, we express our expectation that no job losses in Scarborough Borough Council will be countenanced without full negotiations with staff-side trade unions. Yours sincerely, Eric Robert, myself, on behalf of Scarborough District Trades Council. So that's the letter.
Better crowd than we thought. We know that many people have gone from Scarborough down to London today to join hundreds of thousands of others to protest against the scale and the pace of these cuts. And it's not just in London and Scarborough, but other towns and cities where people are protesting right now. We have to ask ourselves, what has the government got against young people? That it has to abolish child trust funds, it has to abolish the educational maintenance allowances, it has to triple tuition fees, we have to cut money given to employers to help the long-term unemployed find jobs. What has it got against people who, when they're made homeless, will now only get sufficient money if they're young to find a single room in shared accommodation? No separate home for them. They'll have to live with their parents for many more years in all probability. What has the government got against ordinary working people that they're cutting child tax allowances and other money to help people bring up families? That they're raising VAT, they've already raised it by 2.5%. What is it the government has got against people who are disabled and ill? That they have to smash up the NHS and hand it over to these GP commissioners, most of whom do not want it. And the disabled living allowance is being slashed and cut. What is it the government has got against pensioners? That the winter fuel allowance is being cut this year by £50 and £100 for people over the age of 80. There are so many things that this government is doing. You have to ask yourself whether or not what I thought was dead and buried many years ago has now been resurrected. Class war, is that what it is? The wealthy and the bankers not having their bonuses taxed this year against everybody else. That seems to be the message of this war. It's a blitzkrieg against ordinary people, whether they're working families, pensioners, students, or the very young.
It's because we're Tories!
Oh, we know that. We know that.
That is something I would not disagree with. But let's just say that there is an alternative. There was a deficit and we had to put our hands up. That deficit increased because there was a demand to prevent the banks from going bust, leaving savers without money. and to stop a recession turning into a 1930s-style depression. We had a deficit because tax revenues fell sharply, and we had to pay for the money to keep the economy going at the same time. Of course, there was a deficit, and that is helping people overcome the short-term problem of a recession. Now we have to say, what are the alternatives? The alternatives must be to generate growth which is sustainable, the money for a green economy, alternative jobs, and we are arguing here in Scarborough that the council should be looking at that and not cutting jobs, but seeing how you can raise the money to do those things. There are many ways that you can generate jobs, and I'm sure that in the coming months that is the debate that we want, not a debate on how you cut jobs. So thank you again for coming this morning. We're going to have to do this probably a bit more often in the coming months and maybe. Thank you all.